When a Hindu dies, the moment they claim to have reached nirvana, the moment they say they have united with God, their individuality disappears. There is no second life for them. Who lives again? A punishment is given to the one who undergoes reincarnation, that is, to the person who fails to attain the perfection or maturity of reaching nirvana. Go and live in a body once more. This is called karma. Each and every individual here is truly the hand, the foot, the arm, and the eye of God on earth. He acts through them all. Here, from the perspective of social history, it is a matter of whether the people living in this world exist as individuals, whether they take part in this world as subjects, how much space they occupy in this world, and how much they are remembered. The verse says this.
Hello to everyone from the Istanbul School. Today on verse 167 of Surah al-Baqarah. Today we will talk about the day of regret. Our special guest is Professor Dr. Şaban Ali Düzgün. Hello, Professor.
Hello.
Professor, we would like to discuss the day of regret in the context of Surah al-Baqarah. Actually, it is the day of the hereafter. We want to address this topic in terms of the regrets that people will experience in the hereafter. We use the concept of longing, but it also has a different context here. How do you interpret it? How do you define it?
Yes. In several verses, regret is expressed as a sigh over a missed opportunity that can never come back. Longing, in Turkish özlem, longing seems to refer to something in the future or even longing for the present moment. We feel longing for a loved one we haven't seen. We yearn for them. This is a bit different from that. It will be remembered from Surah Yasin. Oh, what regret for the servants. The Hazret mentioned there, as in those servants are truly to be pitied. And the Hazret in the verses we will discuss both refer to a longing that looks back to the past, a pain and anguish caused by a lost opportunity that was given to you, but which you were never able to make use of, something that can never return. It is a definition related to a period of time. It defines both the time and the opportunity. I mentioned the verse you mentioned before coming to that one, to remind you that it is used in different units, different types, and different contexts. I would like to mention this. For example, the word Hazret is used for angels because in the root of the word there is also the meaning of exhaustion. When it is said that angels remember and glorify Allah and never grow weary of it, again the word Hazret is used. A situation where people who spend recklessly end up without any possessions or means, having exhausted all their resources. This is also a pitiable state. What is he longing for? He is longing for the wealth and possessions he has lost. Or, for example, a healthy person who did not appreciate the value of his health. He has lost his health. He says, if only I had those healthy days back. He longs for them. This is also referred to as mahsur kalmış. The word mahsur is again used in the Quran. So hazar, it is possible to place the hadith of the Prophet right here. He says, appreciate the value of three things before they slip away from you. The value of health before you fall ill, the value of your wealth before you become poor, and the value of time before it slips away from you. Know the value of these three things. What does he call the longing you feel for them once you've lost them? He calls it yearning. In the Quran, the term mahsur is used for this expression.
So it seems to mean being trapped in poverty, unable to get out of it.
Yes. It's a pain and ache caused by being surrounded by poverty, again in the sense of exhaustion. They will recall the context in which this is used for the angels in Surah al-Mulk. Now, when I read it, our friends who are listening to it are very happy. A flaw in the cosmic system. In other words, look and search for a flaw in this system created by Allah. Even turn your gaze back twice, keep looking, and what happens? Your eyes will return to you again, and in the end, your eyes will become weary and exhausted. Again, from the root meaning of longing, they will become tired and worn out. but you will not be able to find a single flaw. After saying all this, we come to that 167th verse. The verse in Baqarah is actually the one at the very center of the meaning we gave to the word Hazret. Because what we have mentioned, someone who loses their health, it is hoped that they may regain it. Someone who loses their wealth, it is hoped that they may get it back. But after death, after this life ends, the world we go to, the hereafter, the new life that begins there, has nothing to do with this world anymore. Because as we will see, other scenes are being set up as well. People say, oh Lord, give us one more chance. Let us come back and do what we neglected to do. You will not be given another opportunity. Because there is a barrier, an insurmountable obstacle between where you came from and this place. There are verses about this.
Here there is a difference between how we use the concept of longing and how it is used in relation to the afterlife.
I mean, there is a subtle difference. There is a categorical difference here. But there is also a closeness. There is still a longing, still a sighing from within. Here, what is being longed for, what is missed, or what is regretted? Because that is also included in longing. There is pain. There are sighs. The reason, because we did something and we wish we hadn't done it.
Regret.
There is the pain brought by that regret. And in the verse, the word Hazret is not used here as longing, pests, pains piled up on top of each other, stacked up sorrows, all those if-onlys. It's a very striking scene. Then you might ask, what did these people do to experience such layered pain, such deep sighs and sorrow? Here, from the perspective of social history, it's a matter of whether the people living in this world actually existed as individuals, whether they took their place in this world as subjects, how much space they occupied in this world, and how much they were remembered. The verse says, وَكَلَ لِذِينَ أَتْبُوا, those who are constantly following others, always subordinate, in other words, those who cannot become the people, who cannot become individuals. Now, viewers might say this, Professor, the term the people you mention has only been in use for about 200 years anyway. 200 years ago there was no people. 300 years ago there was no people. In the Middle Ages there was no people. What was there? There were subjects. There was the flock. There was the herd. It was like this both in the East and in the West. Then when concepts like the society of consent, the social contract and similar terms emerged, those writers of political treatises started to say the following. To the king, the ruler, the sultan, there is this thing called the people. Should we take them into consideration as well? If we include them, if we involve them in governance, their consent might make things easier for us. But we never considered them before. Here we just do things. It was enough for those who followed orders. There was no people.
It has now become something more visible and valuable.
18th or 200 years old, a phenomenon that's 200 years old, the use of the term people. What we're trying to say here is that the word etba is also used in other places in the Quran. Etba always refers to those who desire to follow. So, where is the place you hold on to? In this world, as a subject, where do I stand? What can I do? What can I do as an agent? Rather, what we constantly see in the scenes set by the Quran is this. It's here as well and elsewhere too. They say, "Oh Lord, we followed these men. We called them our imams, our leaders. But they took us and led us astray down the wrong paths. We committed evil deeds. It's clear you will punish us," they say. At the very least, give double punishment to these men we followed who led us astray so that we can feel some relief, as if they're saying that. And the Quran's answer to this is double for them as well. You followed them because you didn't use your intellect, because you didn't use the authority given to you. Both of you will receive double punishment. Now, regarding the disbelievers here, of course, there is a situation related to the sinners. Here they have been dragged into sin together. Either give them double punishment, or at least you will punish us once and punish them as well. Give us another chance, let us go back, do good deeds again, and abandon this culture of blindly following these people, and let us try that opportunity once more. Here, where this is used, the regrets pile up one after another, and the people are expressing blame. They are blaming themselves as well. How could we have done such a thing? Then when they hear that such a chance will not be given to them again, another wave of regret washes over them. Therefore, the word hasret that we use so often in Turkish or in Surah Yasin, the phrase Ya hasratan alal ibad, alas for the servants, means pity for those people. Who are they? When you ask that, you see the classification. One must recognize the disgrace of those who squander the opportunities they've missed, who use their attitudes and behaviors to the detriment of their own existence, of nature, of humanity, and who in no way appreciate the value of being directly connected to God, of being addressed by Him. In other words, through revelation and the Quran, God addresses every individual, every member of a community, those who lead the community, our friend from the village, and even those who consider themselves above everything we call a great future or destiny. This is a book that speaks to everyone. A message, that is a message that has been sent. A friend once said this. Our friend, I have 6,236 unread messages. Just open and read them, see what they say. It says you have unread messages. Now, when a message is sent to you, you say, if only you would open it, read it, and then tell me what it says. The message is coming to you. Therefore, such a relationship, missing out on this, and let's say the honor of being addressed, being given to leaders, this has become institutionalized. For example, in Shia culture, understanding certain verses is only possible through the imams. This is called esoteric interpretation. In other words, there is something underlying this verse, but it is impossible for me to understand it. So what have you done now? You are giving someone the authority to receive something from a secret channel as if there is a hidden connection with God that no one except the Prophet could ever have, and bring it to us. After that, abuses begin. This regret is a very significant consequence, because imagine a situation where you will suffer great pain, great torment, and since you will not be given another chance, there is no way to make up for it. There is no compensation for this. So where does the problem come from? Let's say the active message in these verses is as follows. It dramatizes the scene, an event that has not yet happened or come before you, as if it has already occurred, assigning roles in such a way that you are prompted to reorganize your present moment accordingly.
Reorganize it. Teacher, what we've always been taught from the beginning, regarding religion, is that if you open and read the Quran by yourself, you won't understand it. Someone needs to convey it, to interpret it. It needs to be guided in a better way in order to be able to live the religion. But here you're actually saying the opposite about the regret that those who blindly follow others will experience in the afterlife. You're saying that following those who mislead us will actually lead to bad consequences for us in the afterlife, turning into regret, longing, and putting us on a path with no return. Considering that it's not really possible to completely distance ourselves from people who will guide us, what kind of distinction should we make here? So, should everyone open the Quran, read it, and understand it themselves?
The Quran, now everyone is addressed by this message. Is that right?
That's right, of course.
Then there's no problem here. So where could the problem be? It could be, for example, when a legal ruling needs to be derived. This is called istinbat. There are certain conditions for this. You need to know the language. You need to understand the society. You need to have a certain perspective. You need to know what purpose this ruling will serve. In other words, the person making the law, the scholar, let's say, the lawmaking scholar, just like in legal systems, needs to know this. That's a separate matter. What we call the verses of istinbat, or the verses referred to as menat or manas, are already limited in number, and experts are aware of this. But apart from that, there are extraordinary, incredible interpretations regarding Surah Al-Fatiha. If you read what those scholars have done, their interpretations, you become enriched. That is a different thing, but I do not understand this Quran. I can't be the addressee of this. To be the addressee of Allah is such a huge thing. To say something like, how can I receive and read that message? This kind of statement goes against the very logic of the Quran's revelation. As I said, if there is a ruling related to a very technical subject, we leave that aside. The experts already handle that, and they have done so. And the objection here is this. The Quran is not addressing such a technical issue. In my opinion, it is criticizing a culture. Now, there is a man named Etienne de la Boétie. The book he wrote at the end of the 1500s is called Discourse on Voluntary Servitude. The point is this: every individual whom God has created as a free and dignified being should have their own personal life in this world, one in which they can determine what they are capable of and what kind of unique significance they can possess here. The religion we belong to, the lineage we come from, the group, the family, and so on. Those are our total identities, our overarching identities. But before all that, we have our own personal identity, our own personal history, and we are responsible for that. We will be questioned about that. In other words, what we call individuality, the plural of fert is furada. The Holy Quran says that both in this world and in the hereafter, God will question you as individuals one by one. Your individuality will never be lost. So what this means is the following. We know that in Hindu thought, in Indian philosophy, in pantheistic thinking, for example, what happens when a person dies? His individuality, personality, and uniqueness disappear. He reaches nirvana. What does this mean? He is lost in the universal spirit, in God. It's over. That person no longer exists. It's just like how, for example, when the Kızılırmak River flows into the Black Sea, it ceases to be the Kızılırmak. Until it reaches there, it is the Kızılırmak. But after it merges, it becomes the Black Sea. When a Hindu says he has reached nirvana, when he says he has united with God, his individuality is lost. He doesn't have a second life. Who lives again? Reincarnation is a punishment given to those who undergo it. That is, to people who have not attained the perfection, the maturity of reaching nirvana. Go and live in a body once more. This is now called karma. However, Islam emphasizes something different. The Quran says you will never lose your individuality. There will never be such a state as annihilation in God, like going and merging with Allah. He will question you individually. So if we are to be questioned individually, then I must learn to live as an individual here. What Etienne de la Boétie calls a discourse on voluntary servitude over there, it's as if he says people feel as though they've lost not their freedom, but their slavery. They go to someone else. They say, please, I've lost my slavery, accept me again as your slave, let me be subject to you again. That's how he describes it. This is completely contrary to human dignity and the mission and duty a person should assign to themselves in this world. Here, each individual among us is the hand, foot, arm, and eye of God on earth. He sees through them. This is beautifully explained in Khalil Gibran's book, The Prophet. In other words, when you see a person who needs to be seen, God sees through your eyes, as if his need is being fulfilled. So every individual is supposed to do this, and I'll just follow along and let them do it on my behalf. There is no such world. The word etba means that herd, the mass, the crowd. Some people even call it a mass. In other words, because the masses do not use their own free will, because they do not make an effort to seek a path or a way, he says it's not even worth calling them a crowd. He calls it a mass. It's a mass, as if it were a lifeless entity. There is a term in sociology called herd society. The herd society waits. That's why you make judgments, you pass verdicts. They are never really present there. They don't speak up. The person can't even protest. How can you expect such a thing from me?
There's also a fear that the wolf will catch the one who leaves the herd.
And when someone does speak up, our culture has a saying for that. If you step forward or leave the herd, they say the wolf will get you. So you add to this a culture that prevents a person from speaking up or taking action. Where does all this lead us? In the end, it's conformity. Surah al-Baqarah, verse 167. It criticizes a culture that conforms to the herd, that is submissive, that only shows itself through passive obedience, that never gets involved in any process, and that remains anonymous in the middle, saying, let the snake that doesn't touch me live 1,000 years. And it warns that in the end, these people will be left standing there in the presence of God, burdened with what is called hasarat, piled up pains, sighs, and regrets.
May God protect us, teacher. I mean, God has protected.
I think he has protected us. He gave us reason, understanding, fairness, and conscience. He protected us. It also shows a warning in advance so that they can work.
Maybe this program will be a part of that warning, a means to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Really?
Dear viewers, today we talked about the day of regret in the context of verse 167 of Surah al-Baqarah. See you in the next episode. Goodbye.